right, now it's a time for a quick commercial before we get going.
What's on? What is it?
Oh, I'm going to sleep on commercial.
Now, today you don't want to sleep because this is an educational commercial.
Yay. Is first my chief over yet? No.
Okay. It's all about the numbers. Okay? Those are just your basic counting numbers that we've always had. 1, 2, 3. Throw in the idea of a negative. Throw in the concept of a zero, which hasn't always been around. Zero is a different kind of an idea. Start talking about the relationship of numbers and proportions. You get fractions, mixed numbers, improper fractions, crazy fractions, and then other kinds of numbers. And the one thing that's on here that we're going to need to pay attention to is this guy right here, I, which is, anybody know? What is I? The negative square root of 1. Okay. That's that crazy number we started to work with. And let's find out where it is. Here's your number system. This is basically all of the numbers. There's our famous counting numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way to call them natural numbers. They appear in nature, one of something. Zero concept, it's different. Negative numbers, all still whole numbers, called integers. When you start to talk about the relationship of integers, you can have what are known as rational numbers, things that we can think about. Trevor, can you put that up, please? You'll like this part. Okay. Ms. Gould, please look up here. All right, all of these numbers end somewhere. 1.2, it stops. But then we have those other kinds of numbers that don't stop. Pi, we know about pi, right?
Yeah.
Now, with supercomputers, they've calculated pi out to, I think, 1 trillion
You can't stop
places.
pi.
You can't stop pi. E square root of 2 has 1 point something or other.
You can't stop that either.
Can't stop it. Can't stop
That's
it.
what they call irrational.
That's right, because,
You can't stop.
well, that would be one way to say it. Is you can draw it, all right? There it is. There's a square root of 2. But as a number, it's impossible to express rationally. You have to just believe that it goes on and on. Okay? 2 plus the square root of 7. All these numbers that have been under radical signs, if you can't break them down, they're all irrational. Square root of 2, square root of 3, square root of 5, square root of 7. Irrational numbers. All right, take all of these guys, put them in a pot together. Rational, the irrational, we call them real numbers. Okay? All of this is real. But what did we talk about before? Something that's unreal.
-1.
The square root of -1. I can see the square root of 2. Here it is. It's this line in a square.
But you can't
Square root of -1.
You can't see it.
We kind of run across it when we do algebra. You know, I'll explain more exactly how we run across it. We call it I. We just say it's an imaginary number. Okay? And so we have to focus on the imaginary part of it. And so when we have something like the square root of -4, let's say. Square root of -4. Well, I can kind of separate out the irrational part, or the imaginary part. Right? I can say that's the same as the square root of -1 times what?
4.
It's the square root of 4. Right. Okay. Can I do something to this that's rational, reasonable? I can, well, what is the square root of 4? 2. So, I get a 2. What can I do with this?
Nothing. So you just have it for I.
Well, I could leave it there as the square root of -1, or because I want to do something more with this, I'm going to encounter this number over and over, and I'm going to start adding things to it. Multiplying I, squaring I, doing all this stuff because it shows up more than once. I'm going to call it I. Call it I right here. And I'll bring it down. And I'll say it has a relationship to the rest of this number. This was multiplication right here.
Don't it have to be a negative I?
No, I is the square root of -1.
Okay. Okay.
We can end up with a negative I. What would, it'll be interesting to talk about. That's what we're going to deal with in our next class. If we have a chance to talk about it today, we will. Just right now, what you need to know is when you encounter square root of -1, we're calling it I. We can pull out the negative part of these imaginary numbers, deal with the rational part, or the irrational part, and then put it back together. So, if I have I times 2, what's a nicer way to write that?
2I.
I think 2I, yeah, because then I know I have 2 of them.
Well,
Okay? Then eventually I could add something, couldn't I? Couldn't I add 7 to this kind of crazy thing? Here's this crazy thing.
oh, and that's how they come up with it.
Well, this is known, this right here is known as a complex number. Yes, here I'm doing it randomly, but because we will do it in problems and it'll show up.